I love dressing up, as you could probably tell from this YouTube channel. I've always been a really girly girl. Pink, fairies, princesses. Though, to be fair, in my day-to-day life, I dress very plain. And that was true even as a kid. I just like being comfortable. I like t-shirts. I don't like wearing jewelry. I don't like doing anything with my hair. Well, I mean, other than the pink. The pink is a real boost, because now I'm kind of fun all the time. But there's a level of girliness that's unique to being a kid. A level of dramatics and pizzazz that adults just aren't capable of. Kids don't need an excuse. They're gonna wear an Elsa dress to the grocery store. And nobody emulates that better than Fancy Nancy. Fancy Nancy is a 2005 picture book about a precocious, dramatic little girl that expanded into a media franchise. And so today, I'd like to talk about Fancy Nancy's 20-year history. But first, let's talk about the sponsor of today's video, Factor. Factor is like if food was fancy. Is that anything? I don't think so. Factor delivers fresh, never frozen, chef-crafted, and dietitian-approved meals straight to your doorstep. And the best part for me is they're ready to eat in just 2 minutes. You don't need to prep or clean up. I try to eat healthy, eat vegetables, but when I'm left to my own devices, I'm eating buttered pasta. So it's nice being guided. Here's some cauliflower, it'll be yummy. Factor has over 100 weekly rotating options for all different dietary preferences, like veggie vegan, keto, protein plus, and calorie smart. And in addition to meals, they have salads, breakfasts, shakes, and more that you can add on. Factor is owned by HelloFresh, and I like how you can put in different amounts of effort with each of them. Sometimes I just want to use the microwave, so sue me, If you're interested in trying Factor for yourself, head to factor75.com or click the link below and use Serif FB50 to get 50% off your first Factor box plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's code Serif FB50 at factor75.com to get 50% off plus free breakfast for 1 year. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. So Fancy Nancy was created by author Jane O'Connor and illustrator Robin Price Glasser. Jane O'Connor got her degree from Smith College in 1969, and then she took a job as an assistant to a children's book editor at a publishing company. And after working with children's books, she was inspired to create her own. Her first book was published in 1979, and it is a middle grade novel called Yours Till Niagara Falls, Abby, which is about a girl going to summer camp. But Jane's primary career was as an editor. She worked for Scholastic, Random House Children's Books, Grosset and Dunlap, and in 2002 became the vice president and editor-at-large of Penguin Young Reader Group. She helped create many lines of best-selling books, including the Night Before series by Natasha Wing, the Zack Files by Dan Greenberg, Dragon Slayers Academy by Kate McMullen, the easy-to-read line of early readers, and the Who Was biography series, which now has more than 300 titles. But as for Fancy Nancy, she came up with the idea while cooking dinner.
Well, I was making dinner for my family one night, and the name flew in my head, and I started writing the first story that night, and in part it was based on me. When I was little, I loved looking glamorous. I was always urging my mother to wear more makeup and jewelry.
She said about Nancy, "I wanted her to be a little girl who made her entire world fancy herself. DIY. It was not just about clothes and decor. It was about using fancy words and holding a pinky up when drinking a cup of tea." Meanwhile, Robin Price Glasser had been working as an illustrator. Her first career had actually been as a professional ballerina with the Pennsylvania Ballet, but she was always passionate about drawing, and she would take art classes in the off-season. And then a back injury cut her dance career short at the age of 30. And she didn't really know what to do because she felt like she had already lived a whole life and a whole career, but her parents encouraged her to enroll in the Parsons School of Design in New York, where she studied drawing. She graduated in 1990, and after about 5 years of random work, she started illustrating picture books. And when Jane wrote the Fancy Nancy manuscript, her editor only wanted Robin to be the illustrator.
You guys remember when you first met?
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
We do, of course.
It was through our editor. I sent the first book of Fancy Nancy to Margaret Anastas at HarperCollins, and she wanted Robin, and only Robin, to illustrate. And Robin came in one day from the West Coast to meet us for lunch, and we met downstairs in the lobby of Harper's offices, and Robin arrived in a boa and a tiara.
I'm a little unclear on the timeline here because apparently in 2002, when Robin received the manuscript, she was busy at that time working on picture books with Lynn Cheney, Dick Cheney's wife, the Iraq War guy.
I had gotten the manuscript about 2002, but I was working on a few history books with Lynn Cheney. I did America Patriotic Primer, A is for Abigail, and I had sort of a very tight deadline on those, and I had that sitting there, and I knew I needed to get to it, but I didn't have the time. And one summer, before I started the third in the trilogy of these heavily researched, amazing books that they were amazing projects to work on for all the history that I had to learn. It was fascinating. I said, oh, I have to get to that story. I just love that story. Oh, I could just pop that one out. It's so me. It just hits every button about me. And I literally did it over the summer and sent it in.
So I'm not entirely sure when she got brought on and when she committed, like when that meeting with the feather boa was. I'm assuming everyone met, she was signed on to the project but had other commitments and finished it later, but I could be wrong. In any case, she ended up doing the art for Fancy Nancy. Apparently Jane O'Connor had sort of imagined the character looking like herself as a child, but Robin based it on her niece Jessica.
I had done the cover sketch.
That was the first thing I saw.
And it wasn't Jane's image of how she imagined Nancy would look at all. She imagines
That she would look like me as a little girl, skinny with dark braids.
braids, yes. And I came up with this she's completely based on my niece, Jessica, who was a Fancy Nancy.
This is my niece, Jessie. And this is not Halloween, by the way. I think this is kindergarten. Jessie loved to go to kindergarten all fancy, dressed up.
And apparently she was also inspired by her childhood troll doll.
So I realized she was the kind of girl that I was when I was a little girl. And that's because I had a favorite doll. I still have it. When I was about 10 years old, I had this troll doll. It's not that she's innately fancy, except for the hot pink hair, of course. I made all her clothes. I made this tutu for her, which doesn't quite close in the back because even though I love to sew, I wasn't good at measuring. Then I made these fancy lace panties for her. And then I made a whole troll mansion out of shoeboxes, and I took toilet paper for the white carpeting, Legos, and made all the furniture and Play-Doh to make the lamps and everything, and just made this whole mansion. So I made my whole world fancy.
I think the troll doll and I go to the same hairstylist. The first Fancy Nancy book was then published in 2005. This is not a 2005 copy, this is a new copy, but it gets the point across. We open with Nancy's bedroom before she decorated it. Jane wanted it to look like her parents had gone to IKEA and bought all the white furniture. And then we see the fancy version of the room that Nancy has decorated, with seemingly whatever stuff she could find around the house. Then we meet Nancy, who loves using fancy words. She says that her favorite color is fuchsia, which is a fancy way of saying purple, and she also loves using French words. Nancy always defines these words for the reader, which makes them kind of a good vocab lesson for kids, teaching them fancy vocabulary.
Immediately I saw that this child would love throwing out $5 words, that's part of being fancy too, just the way that anything you say in French sounds fancy. So that was the kernel of it. And parents and teachers have told me how important that is to them.
Nancy is shown in contrast to her very plain-looking family. And I love that you can see Robin Price Glasser's dance influence in the way that Nancy moves. She's always on tiptoe and leaping around. One day at the grocery store, Nancy sees a bulletin advertising various different classes. And she gets the idea to teach her own class about being fancy. So she teaches her family the difference between being plain and being fancy. And her family takes these lessons to heart, and they all get dressed up. They then all go to dinner at a local pizza restaurant. The pizza restaurant is called the King's Crown, and they seem to have sort of a Burger King gimmick where they have little paper crowns. Then they get ice cream sundaes, but Nancy trips and she spills them all over herself. So they go home and get cleaned up and make ice cream sundaes at home. And in the end, her parents tuck her into bed and say, "I love you." And all I say back is, "I love you." Because there isn't a fancy or better way of saying that. The end. It's very cute. The art is very detailed. Apparently the way Robin does the art is with a micron pen and then does watercolor on top of that.
Kids always want to know, what is my process for painting? What tools do I use? The beginning step is just sketching a lot of different ideas. I always draw my images with a micron pen. So the black line is in this indelible pen. And then I watercolor it in. And the way I do this is in many, many layers. First, I start with the palest layers. So for instance, Nancy's skin here, I would start with a very pale yellow. Then I'd add a little bit of pink and a little bit of blue and a little bit of purple. So just painting this part of her arm could take a little while just to get all the different colors that are on here.
And this book was very successful. Jane O'Connor had only signed on for 2 books. And she joked that she didn't know how she was going to do more than 1.
When my editor at HarperCollins, Margaret Anastas, she signed me up for 2 Fancy Nancy books. Well, it was probably about 10 years ago. And I thought, 2 books? How am I ever going to write a second book about this character? But somehow it expanded.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But evidently they've figured it out, because there has been more than 80 Fancy Nancy books. It was funny watching interviews as research, because different interviews over the years, the number starts going up. Over 50 Fancy Nancy books, over 70 Fancy Nancy books. You're like, oh, they're churning them out. Then, in 2012, we get the first Fancy Nancy chapter book. At this point, there had already been Fancy Nancy I Can Read books, so not your traditional big picture book. These are books for kids who are starting to read on their own. And those books took place with Nancy going to school, so she had already been aged up for those books. And Jane had considered jumping her 1 step older, and apparently had gotten lots of requests.
I started the chapter books, the Nancy Clancy books, where she's in 3rd grade, and those are about 128 pages, because I was getting letters where kids wanted chapter books about Nancy.
So she started making chapter books. The books are called Nancy Clancy, because she thought that sounded older, and they are inspired by Nancy Drew. So all the books are mysteries. There are 8 books in total, and the first book is Nancy Clancy Super Sleuth. Nancy really wants to be a detective like Nancy Drew, but there isn't enough crime where they live. And her dad is like, oh no, how sad. Then her sister Jojo comes in, and she's missing her snorkel mask, which she wears all over the place. And so Nancy gets very excited to solve a mystery. But then Nancy's friend Bree comes over. Bree is Nancy's best friend. She, like Nancy's sister, was originally introduced in the picture books. And Bree has the snorkel mask. Apparently Jojo left it at her house. So mystery solved. Bree has to go pick up a book from the neighbor's house for her mom. So Nancy and Bree head over and start sneaking around like detectives. The house where they have to pick up the book from is home to their neighbors Wanda and Rhonda, who are twin sisters a little bit younger than Nancy and Bree. And these girls are always fighting. So when Nancy and Bree sneak over, Rhonda and Wanda are fighting about something, and then Wanda angrily says that she's going to tell Nancy what Rhonda did, as sort of an escalation of their argument. But before we can figure out what that means, the twins are brought inside by their dad. So then Bree and Nancy are speculating, like, what did Rhonda do? Something that they're keeping secret from Nancy that they think Nancy's going to be upset about. But then the girls have to stop hanging out and go do their homework. The project is that they have to bring a memento into class. They have to write a paragraph about it, and then everybody is going to have to guess each other's mementos, like which item belongs to who. And they're going to show off all the mementos at Family Day. And Nancy wants to know what Bree is going to bring as her memento. Because Nancy wants to bring this Nancy Drew book that her neighbor Mrs. Devine gave her, but she's like, what if Bree wants to bring something similar? So she passes Bree a message asking what she's bringing on a basket on a pulley system that they have, called their top secret special delivery mailbox. They are next door neighbors. This goes between their 2-bedroom windows. And Nancy writes this message in secret code. It is a skip cipher, so like A gets changed to C, B gets changed to D, so on and so forth. And the book gives you the answer key for the cipher in the pages. And then Bree, of course, says that she's not supposed to say what her memento is. So Nancy's like, fine, I'm not going to do the book. I'm going to do something less obvious. I'm going to do this fool's gold that I got as a gift from Bree. So Bree will know that it's hers, but no one else will probably guess. Then in class the next day, everybody's trying to write down their guesses. And we meet this annoying girl named Grace, who's like snooping on Nancy's paper and being a real know-it-all. And then everybody reveals their mementos. And Nancy was right that basically no one guessed that she brought in the fool's gold. And we learn that their teacher brought in this blue marble, which was a gift from his grandfather. And so he shows them all how to play marbles. Later that day, Rhonda comes to Nancy's clubhouse. And for a moment, it seems like she's going to confess whatever it was that she did. And then she doesn't. So Nancy tries to get her to confess by like giving her a glass of water, kind of playing good cop, like just tell me what you did. But then Rhonda's called away. The next morning, Nancy is getting all dressed up for family day, and she's missing one of her bracelets. And then she sees that her sister JoJo is wearing it. She's like, ugh, JoJo's always taking my stuff. But JoJo apologizes and gives it back. Then everybody goes to family day, gets to see all the cool mementos. Bree has brought a disposable camera with her and keeps taking pictures. And JoJo hangs out with one of Nancy's classmates' little sisters. Then it's time for the families to leave, and the class spends the rest of the day doing some creative writing. Nancy writes a story about a jewel heist, and of course uses very vivid language. And then Grace notices that the blue marble is missing. It had been sitting on the table with all the other mementos and taped down with scotch tape so it wouldn't roll away. But now it's gone. So all the kids crawl around on the ground looking for it, and the teacher's like, don't worry about it. It'll turn up. I'm sure he's also thinking, this stupid marble derailing my lesson. I had them all sitting and quiet. And then the kids start to speculate that maybe the marble was stolen. Later, Nancy and Bree get Bree's photos developed, and they start scanning the photos for evidence of a crime. And they are able to see from the photos that the marble disappeared somewhere between 11 and 1:15. And Nancy's very excited that they have an actual mystery, so she's telling her parents all about it over dinner. And JoJo says that she has a stomach ache. And at first I was like, did JoJo eat the marble? Then I was like, no, because then we can't have a happy ending where we get the marble back, because that marble would be toast at that point. So I quickly discounted that theory. Nancy then looks in her Nancy Drew book for inspiration and sees that there is a brown fingerprint in it and a rip. And she immediately goes and blames JoJo. She's like, you and your Oreo cookie hands have ruined my book. It's not ruined. It's like mildly damaged. But then we bring JoJo over to the book and put her hand next to the fingerprint, and her hand is way too small. She has little tiny fingers. And Nancy realizes that the culprit must have been Rhonda, and that's what she's so upset about. The twins visited the other day, and they were all dirty from soccer practice, and Rhonda must have touched her Nancy Drew book. But before she flings any accusations, Nancy wants proof. And so remember when she was trying to get Rhonda to confess, and she gave her that glass of water? Well, she is now going to fingerprint that glass of water, which was still sitting out in the clubhouse from yesterday. So Nancy has Bree come over with her junior detective kit that she got as a birthday present, and they fingerprint the glass. And the fingerprints match. Your fingerprints are different on each finger, right? So it's very convenient that we were able to get a clean print off of the glass of the finger that matched the fingerprint in the book. I mean, it's impressive we were able to get a clean fingerprint at all. Whatever, this is for children. Sometimes I say things and I'm like, this doesn't matter. But moving on. And Bree's like, so what are you gonna do? And Nancy's like, what do you mean? And Bree's like, about Rhonda messing up your book. And Nancy's like, oh, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I would have been upset about it if she had told me, but like not that upset. It seems like mainly she wanted to solve a mystery. She doesn't super care about the outcome of it. Like she doesn't go confront Rhonda. Then the next day in class, Nancy finds a note in her desk that says in faded green marker, I think you stole the marble. And Nancy is shocked by this. And her teacher's like, hey, are you okay? And he takes her out into the hallway and she shows him the note. And she's like, I swear I didn't do it. And he's like, I know. So then he shows the class the note and is like, this is not nice. Whoever wrote this note, please come see me after class. And then, while they're doing story time, Nancy notices that Grace is doodling with a dried out green marker. So at recess, she confronts her. And Grace is like, well, I thought that you stole the marble because you said it was pretty, and then you wrote that jewel heist story. And Nancy's like, how do I know you didn't steal the marble? But she feels bad saying it because it's not nice to accuse someone. And Nancy's like, I'm not going to tell on you, but you should tell the teacher that you wrote that note. So then later, Nancy tells Bree about who wrote the note, and they start to brainstorm a list of suspects of who could have actually stolen the marble. But all of them kind of seem like dead ends. That afternoon, Nancy tells her mom about the note, and the mom is initially like, do I need to talk to the teacher? Do I need to talk to the other girl's parents? And Nancy's like, no, we're good. It's taken care of. And the mom is like, well, I'm sorry this is happening. And while this conversation is going on, her mom is checking to see if JoJo has a fever, because she still says that her stomach hurts. Then Nancy gets a phone call from Rhonda, and Rhonda confesses to getting the book dirty and apologizes. And Nancy's like, it's fine, you're forgiven. And Rhonda's like, I've been feeling so bad about it. My mom even thought I was getting sick because I was acting so weird. And then Nancy realizes that maybe JoJo took the marble, and she's been feeling sick because she's been feeling guilty about it. Earlier, JoJo was hiding her treasure chest, which holds various cool items that she owns, so that's also suspicious. And so then Nancy goes back to the photos from Family Day and looks over them again, and she sees in one of the photos JoJo and the little girl she was hanging out with reaching for something on the table. And so Nancy goes to look in JoJo's treasure chest, and the marble is there. And Nancy runs to tell their parents, and she's like presenting the photos as evidence and very up in arms about the whole thing. Meanwhile, JoJo is crying, and her parents are like, okay, calm down. Your sister is not on trial right now. And JoJo explains that the little girl she was with wanted to see the marble, but she was too short to see over the table. So she took the marble down to show it to her, and then decided to keep it. But she's felt bad about it the whole time. And so the parents say that she is going to bring the marble back to the teacher and apologize. And Nancy's like, that's it? Where's the justice? What if she steals again? And her mom's like, I think it'll be fine. I mean, you never stole again. And Nancy's like, what are you talking about? And her mom's like, don't you remember when you were little, you took a hair clip from Miss Devine's house, and you felt bad about it, and we brought it back and apologized, and you haven't stolen anything since. And Nancy's like, oh, okay, I guess it's fine. Then she runs off and sends a coded message to Bree, which it's cute. In the book, you have to actually decode this message. Like, it's written in code, there's not a translation, you have to go back to the code cipher from earlier and figure it out. So the code says, meet me at headquarters ASAP, wear your trench coat. Except it doesn't say that, it says wear Boar trench coat. In my book, it was a letter D, which would have translated in the code to a letter B. Unless if you're for some reason translating that one letter in the other direction, but that's still not a Y. If it had been a B, then that would have translated to a Z, which is still not right. It needed to have been an A to translate to a Y using that cipher. So someone messed up on the Kindle version. I don't know if it's wrong in every version. I don't know if I'm going crazy, but that's what the coded message says. Bree shows up at the clubhouse, and she's annoyed that Nancy solved the case on her own. And Nancy's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, but your pictures were a really big help, and we'll definitely do the next one together. And then they say, bonsoir, chérie, to each other. The end. Apparently, this book is based on a true story. Jane O'Connor said, when my own sister and I were young, our great uncle had a bowl of glass marbles, and my sister once asked him if she could have the blue one, and he said, oh no, you don't want that old thing. But she really did, and she took it. She was then racked with guilt and told my mother, and she had to confess and return it. So that was the crime I based the story on. My sister, Jill Abramson, did reform. She's executive editor of the New York Times, so she turned out all right. And then I immediately had to go look up Jill Abramson, and apparently she was executive editor of the New York Times from 2011 to 2014, and she published a nonfiction book in 2019 called Merchants of Truth, The Business of News and the Fight for Facts. And this book apparently received plagiarism accusations. So it turns out her sister did not grow out of stealing. Over the years, there have also been Fancy Nancy musicals. The first one is Fancy Nancy the Musical. This was a 2012 off-Broadway production by the Vital Theater Company. The musical is by Susan DeLallo and Danny Abosh, and it is an adaptation of the book Fancy Nancy and the Mermaid Ballet. Nancy's ballet class is doing an Under the Sea ballet, and Nancy really wants to be a mermaid, but instead, she's cast as a tree.
A tree!
Say what?
Which is crazy because this is an underwater ballet. Did they mean seaweed? Did they not want to explain that to kids? And Bree is cast as an oyster. But then another girl breaks her ankle, and so Bree is promoted to being a mermaid. And Nancy is very upset. She's trying to be happy for Bree, but she feels bad that only one of them gets to be a mermaid. But in the end, she enjoys being a tree. The stage show also includes Nancy's friend Lionel getting cast as a shark and doing a shark rap. Just thought I had to mention that. Then, in 2014, we get the musical Fancy Nancy Splendiferous Christmas. This was another off-Broadway production with the Vital Theater Company. The musical is by Matthew Hardy, Kara Lustig, and Randy Klein, and it is based on the book of the same name. The plot is that Nancy has gotten a fancy tree topper, which she bought with her own money, and then unfortunately it breaks. And she's very upset about this, but then her family works together to make a new tree topper. These musicals have both toured, and they are also available to license. There have been many productions since 2012 and 2014. Then there was a Fancy Nancy TV show. Licensing offers started coming in a few months after the first book came out, but a TV adaptation didn't actually happen until Disney Junior in 2018. Robin Price Glasser said, "We had surefire deals with Sony and Julia Roberts. At one point we had deals with Tina Fey and Fox. This has been a long process of finding the right thing." So a lot of different projects fell through. Apparently there was consistently concern that there wouldn't be a big enough audience for something aimed at little girls. Which is crazy because I feel like there's always been little girl specific media. Pretty big cornerstone of this channel, I would say. Sounds like a lame excuse. But apparently Nancy Cantor at Disney Junior Worldwide really pushed to make this show happen. It was a 3D animated show with 2 11-minute segments per episode, and they made 63 episodes over the course of 3 seasons. The show stars Mia Sinclair Jennis as Nancy. Nancy's default outfit on the show is cute. I don't associate her with yellow, perhaps not my favorite look of hers, but I think part of what's going on with this outfit is that it has less accessories than she normally wears, which makes it easier to animate. Nancy's parents are played by Rob Riggle and Allison Hannigan. Hannigan auto-corrected to Hannibal, which shows you what I get up to. It's funny being an adult looking into animated projects, because when you're a kid, you're not aware of who's voicing things. But as an adult, you're like, "Oh, from How I Met Your Mother." I haven't seen Buffy, sorry. Nancy's best friend Bree is played by Dana Heath, who apparently starred on the Nick show Danger Force. Mrs. Devine, Nancy's older neighbor, is played by Christine Baranski. The twins, Rhonda and Wanda, are played by Ruby J. I'm aware of her because she starred as Holly Hobby in the most recent TV adaptation, and now she does dances on TikTok, and people go, "Holly Hobby!" in the comments. There's also a character named Lionel, who's one of Nancy's friends, and he is played by Malachi Barton. I am aware of him because he was in the most recent Zombies movie. I haven't watched the Zombies movies, but I'm aware that he was in it. Zombies is a series of Disney Channel original movies, or I guess maybe Disney Plus original movies at this point, where humans are learning to coexist with zombies, and then later werewolves and aliens, I think. It's kind of a clumsy racism metaphor, is my understanding. And recently, Disney did a concert tour combining the Zombies cast and the Descendants cast. The cast of the Descendants reboot. So Kylie Kentrell and Malia Baker. And apparently, on this tour, Malachi Barton started dating Kylie Cantrell, and then they broke up, and then Malachi and Malia Baker started dating. And so now Kylie Cantrell and Malia Baker are no longer friends. This is my understanding of the situation. If there's one thing you're gonna get with Disney stars, it's some messy love triangle drama. I'm also not loving Malachi's vibes from his social media bios. He has a Bible quote, Bible verse. Bible verse is, I think, the term. A Bible verse, an American flag emoji, and then on one bio he has an arm flexing emoji, and in the other bio he has a race car emoji, which are just not my vibes, personally. But Malachi Barton played this character, Lionel. Because also, keeping in mind, this show premiered in 2018, so he's 18 now, and that was 8 years ago. Because I kind of forgot about the passage of time. I was like, how old was he when he was doing the show? Oh, a child. Because lots of time has passed. Oh. One interesting thing about the character Lionel is that Lionel has a cousin, Sean, who is autistic. Sean is played by an actor who is autistic. Apparently, this kid made a viral video introducing himself and explaining autism to his 4th grade class. This would have been back in like 2017. And so we have this character, Sean, who is on the autism spectrum. He's only in 2 episodes, but I think it's a cute detail. Just to give you a vibe of the show, the first episode, Nancy and Bree have a tea party, and they get permission from Nancy's mom to use her heirloom teapot. And so, of course, Nancy accidentally drops a charm from her charm bracelet into the teapot and then sticks her hand in to get it out. And then her hand gets stuck, get into hijinks trying to get her hand free. And eventually they are able to get her hand free, but then knock the teapot over immediately after. They come clean about it to her mom, and they are forgiven. So that's sort of the vibe of the episodes. A detail that I like in this show is that Nancy still uses big words, and then she breaks the 4th wall, addresses the audience, and explains what the word means. So it's cute that we're still using the big words and still explaining what they mean. The show also sometimes has musical numbers, which are fine. I mean, this show is basically exactly what I expected it to be. When I heard there's a Disney Junior adaptation of Fancy Nancy, this is basically exactly what I was picturing. I don't think it's anything groundbreaking, and I don't think it's as charming as the picture books. I think that's just sort of a limitation of the animation style. I believe I said this about the Angelina Ballerina adaptation, the 2nd animated series, not the 2D animated one, of how the world feels pretty smooth and empty, which is in direct contrast to the original picture books. Maybe I'm just desensitized because I've made a lot of these videos and this often happens, but I don't think this is like the worst adaptation I've ever seen, you know? It's perfectly good. I did see one parent on Reddit complaining that this is like the new Caillou and Nancy is such a brat and so irritating. And I was like, from what I've seen, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think maybe your kid is obsessed with it and you find it annoying, which is perfectly fair, but I don't think that that's an accurate reflection of this show. The show also had a series of shorts called Fancy It Yourself. These were showing tutorials of how to make things fancy. So like how to host a tea party, how to have a fashion show, how to make your hair fancy. And I really liked those. It's very in keeping with the spirit of Nancy of a DIY kind of fanciness. A fanciness that is accessible to children. Also as a tie-in to the show, because this was a Disney production, you could meet Nancy at the Disney parks. She was also in the stage show Disney Junior Dance Party. I think this was pretty short-lived because the show aired from 2018 to 2022, so it overlaps with a lot of the Disney parks social distancing time period. So I think that maybe limited Fancy Nancy being in the parks. There has also been lots of toys and merch over the years. And apparently, Robin Price Glasser has most of this merchandise in her home. Her home came with a wine cellar that she has filled with her collection of Fancy Nancy branded products. There are dolls and costumes and puzzles and purses. And Disney licensing made a lot of products of their version of Fancy Nancy. My favorite is the Madame Alexander doll line. They did some of the more figurine-style dolls, and then also cloth dolls of all of the different book covers. And there was also a DS game called Fancy Nancy Tea Party Time in 2010. So what's up with the brand now that the TV show is over? Well, when the Disney adaptation started, they took over doing the books. And there was a vibe in some of the articles that Jane and Robin were saying goodbye to Fancy Nancy. Like, basically, ownership had been transferred over to Disney and the two of them were no longer really going to be making it. But this has changed. I think maybe Disney was over Fancy Nancy or something. I don't know. But after a 7-year hiatus of working on the books, Jane and Robin started on a 20th anniversary Fancy Nancy book. This book was published in 2025. And it is called Fancy Nancy, Besties for Eternity. And in 2025, they went on a book tour to promote the book. Robin is very active on social media. She sometimes reposts stuff from fans, which, hey girl. And a little bit confusingly, so she sometimes posts things multiple times. Like she'll make a short form video and post it, and then sometime later post it again, which was just a little bit confusing for me scrolling through her timeline. But I also learned through her social media that her daughter is the special effects makeup artist who did Chappell Rowan's Grammy look. Stumbled across a lot of random things in this video. But after 20 years, Fancy Nancy is still doing well. Jane and Robin both work on a lot of other projects. So I don't know how many more Fancy Nancy books they're going to work on together. They have other stuff going on, and they've already done a lot of them. But I'm really happy that they did that 20th anniversary book. And I hope that Nancy keeps kicking. That's all I have for you today. I'd like to give a big thank you to my patrons, and a special shout out to Austin Poston, Checkered Omega, Court, Gillian, Megan, and Melanie Mermaid. If you didn't know, I have a Patreon where I post monthly bonus content. It's just another way to support me, no pressure. I'm Sarah Seraph on all social media. As always, all the sources I use will be linked in the description. And I don't know how to end a YouTube video. So bye! I'm so happy to take this off. It's like shedding everywhere, and then also it has like these weird rope tails. I didn't want one of the big feather bows because I thought that would be really irritating, but it turns out that was also kind of irritating. This was also irritating. This is why I can't be fancy.